Hello, you beautiful people, and welcome to my channel. Today we'll be reviewing the first and only two seasons of the anime called Vinland Saga. Vinland Saga, well, first of all, actually, a little rundown of this video. So first we'll start by talking about the main themes of the anime, alongside the general time frame that this anime um, covers, because it's based sort of in history and based sort of on real characters taken from Norse sagas. Then we'll be talking a little more about the characters who I find to be interesting. We'll be talking on um, changes between the two seasons, because they are vastly different in themes, vastly different in characters, and each is rich on its own. And then I will be giving you a personal opinion on the anime, whether you should watch it or not, or how much of it you should watch. So, first of all, the what you call it, the historical time frame. This anime covers the rise of Knut the Great, who was a legendary Danish king that actually conquered and ruled over both England and Denmark. Technically, by a little bit of luck, both his father and his older brother, dying and him inheriting the Kingdom of England and Kingdom of Denmark, though it is alleged in history that he poisoned both of them. Now, this story is actually told from the perspective of a Viking warrior, at least in the first season, who was born in a small village in Ireland to um, father that had some repute as as an insanely strong warrior, but who since has switched to pacifism as his way of life. Finally, the his history and his past life comes back to bite him in the ass. And following a very sad and unfortunate turn of events, his son, who is, I believe, 7 at that time, I or rather young, to be fair, is tossed around in the company of a heinous man called Askeladd, who did something horrible to his father, but still took the son called Thorfinn in as his word of sorts. He trains Thorfinn in the ways of combat, uh, strategy, tactical thinking, and Thorfinn becomes a beast. So he's like the one of the most fearsome warriors in the series. Not the strongest, but on the course of becoming one of the strongest. Season one actually deals with Thorfinn's um, growing up from a small child that has been dealt a pretty shitty hand to him growing up in Askeladd's mercenary company, being involved in numerous raids on the English villages, wars against the English forces, and basically growing up on the battlefield and in various camps. Now, this would be the first part of the first season. Him growing up, him taking part in these battles, and him taking part in numerous raids, numerous pillages, all with the intent of righting a wrong done to him. I won't go into more details because I think I will try to avoid giving out too many spoilers. Maybe I'll do a separate piece on Askeladd, Thorfinn, and some other characters. But But let me know if you want that in the comments, or maybe liking this video would be enough to show me that you are interested in the topic. Now, in the second part of the first season, actually, Thorfinn somehow finds himself in the presence of the future King Knut, who at first is only a prince, the second born child of the king, which would make him not the main, what you call it, heir to the throne. Because at that time, the king of Denmark was only he had one crown. He was the king of Denmark. He still hadn't conquered England. But yeah, Thorfinn finds his way into his employ of sorts eventually after traveling with the young prince, who is so very different than what you'd expect for a future king, and they both um, influence the other. Whilst Thorfinn influences the young prince to be more quick to decisions, to be more abrasive in a way, the young prince influences Thorfinn's life by actually instilling some sort of discipline, I think, and sticking up for his ideas. This is a personal opinion. It's not clearly stated anywhere, but I think Prince Knut actually influenced Thorfinn in a way. Let's see. Along the way, he meets one very strong warrior that actually is his uncle. I think it's his uncle. It's his mother's brother, who is this giant of a man and the most powerful warrior alive, called how was it? Torkel. Yeah, Torkel was his name. So Torkel is a brute. His only concern is war, fighting, war, fighting. He actually fights Thorfinn twice, beating Thorfinn twice, to be fair, but still gives us some exposition and basically showing us how his father used to live before leaving for Iceland in Denmark, I do believe. Basically in Jomsborg, where this cult of warriors that his father was part of originated from. Now, Thorkel actually finds himself in the employ of the young prince as well, so he becomes allies with with Thorfinn, while at the beginning of their encounter they were enemies. Because Thorkel decided to abandon the Danish forces and join the English ones in the defense of London, while the old king of Denmark, King Sweyn, declared war on England and prepared a huge invasion force to finally get rid of the Anglo-Saxon influence on the island. Um, After both of them find employment to the young prince, they finally go to the main camp of the Danish forces, the Viking forces, and all of them meet the king. Then the plot twists a little bit by actually showing us um, the or changing, not changing, but showing us the complex dynamics between the king and Prince Knut. It's a very complex dynamic. It's not a lovey-dovey father-son type of shit. They're actually at each other's throats. So each of them is trying to outmaneuver the other. Knut is trying to force the king's hands and actually manage to take control of his forces in England, whilst the king tries his best to get rid of the young prince in a way that doesn't make him a kinslayer. Because even for Vikings, kinslaying is a great taboo, and it's historically accurate. Now, in order to not just keep going too much on the first season, the situation escalates Askeladd does something insane that actually improves the prince's position immensely, who, in a new position of power, decides to change Thorfinn's life and future. I won't I won't be going into more spoilers, but let's just say that at the end of the season one, Thorfinn ends up as a slave. In the season two is very different than season one. It features very limited combat. It features, I think, only combat in the last episode of the season. But basically, the story goes as follows. Thorfinn is a slave. He's being bought by this good, kind farmer or farm owner called Ketil. And we're introduced to a new character called Einar. Einar is a former Danish, is he Danish? Yeah, a former Danish farmer from a village in England. His village was set ablaze and destroyed by the Vikings, his own family being slaughtered in front of his very eyes, and him being captured and sold as a slave by those raiders. Now, Einar finds his way to Ketil's farm as a slave and quickly befriends Thorfinn, even though Einar hates warriors. He hates warriors with a passion because of what they did to his village and family. Uh, but the two manage to settle out their differences. They befriend one of the employers of Ketil called what you call Pater, a former slave freed by Ketil who owns works the farm and helps out fellows helps out slaves. And what was her name? Another slave called Arnheid. Arnheid is basically Ketil's sex slave. He uses her for his own personal needs, and she usually only attends Ketil. Now, um, they've give so both Einar and Thorfinn have been given the opportunity by Ketil to work their debt off, basically making them free men if they manage to turn a huge forest into farmable land, which they work hard towards, getting some setbacks along the way, but eventually they almost manage to do that. Now, there are two big events happening at the same time. Arnheid, former husband, former warrior, Viking warrior, finally finding her once again, and we learn a lot about Arnheid's past, which is very sad and very thought-provoking. And Ketil being fucked over by the very same King Knut. So, for backwards. A little bit of context here. Uh, Knut's father dies and leaves him with England. Knut poisons his brother and then decides to. He poisons his brother, then comes to visit him on his deathbed, and because his brother had no heirs, Knut also receives the crown of Denmark, virtually making him king of Denmark and the and England, which marks actually the start of the great Viking Empire. Now, because Knut became king of Denmark, he still needed his armies in England, and for that, he needed to pay those armies in England. And his solution to that was appropriate some lands owned by farm owners, like Ketil, rich farm owners, and use these new sources of revenue as a funding for his army. Uh, Something's happened between Arnheid and her former husband. Ketil comes back destroyed by the fact that he's gonna be soon attacked by his new king, basically. And because of a thing Arnheid did, he finally snaps, beating Ironhide to death, basically, and just breaking his conscience, or not breaking his mind. He becomes a former shadow of himself. Actually, Ketil has one very interesting attendee, guest, they're called. Basically, they are hired protectors of the farm, who is a former soldier in the Varangian Guard. The Varangian Guard used to be an elite order of Viking warriors protecting the Byzantine Emperor. He is called Hebi in the series, the snake, basically, because by his words, he committed crimes so great that he's not allowed to be using his real name. Um, After this series of events, finally Thorfinn and Knut um, not reconcile but meet again, each with his own ideology. Finally coming to an agreement, Knut decides to leave the farm owners alone, despite his armies in England, which has been a very good move because the Anglo-Saxons, seeing that Knut disbanded his armies, came to trust him more and more. Uh, and Thorfinn actually comes to grips with the fact that he used to be such a murderer and killed so many people that he decides, because of that and to atone for his crimes, that he's gonna be going to Vinland, which is, I think, Newfoundland, and virtually build a state there that has no notion of war or slavery, creating a safe haven for everyone trying to escape this Viking world. Whilst Knut will actually create a Viking world, a Viking society that is a paradise on earth, still ingrained in its traditions. While Thorfinn wants to demolish these traditions entirely and create a new system. This is where the second season lets us off, or finishes at rather. So let's talk about my opinion on it because it's already been a lot of minutes, and I don't think I was expecting something way way less. But let's just say that it's one of the best animes I've ever seen. The story is good, the characters are incredible. That's why I think I'm going to do weekly a piece on each character or each important character because there's a lot to talk about. Sorry. So it's one of the best animes I've ever seen. The contrast between season one, which is very action oriented, and season two, which is peaceful for the majority of the time, is mind boggling, and I think it works perfectly, even though there were some complaints of because of the direction that it took. Basically, it not no longer being an action anime, it elevates the story to new heights and gives us a very clear perspective on warfare, on slavery, on how we actually shouldn't worship these monstrous warriors that only destroy lives, as opposed to the others like farmers who sustain life. Yeah, so I think it's one of the best animes I've ever seen. It's the themes it explores are amazing. The historical setting is super cool. I mean, Vikings for fuck's sake. Besides Vikings, there's really nothing. else to it. It's Vikings, 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 and more. What you say? Vikings and exploration. Because I think where the series goes forward is actually exploring this new land, the Vinland. So hope you've enjoyed my commentary on it. I know it might seem daunting. It will be over 20 minutes, I feel like. I try to include also some scenes that I find most interesting from the series, so hopefully you'll stick by for that. But I think it's a must-watch show. It's one of the best animes I've ever seen recently, and I think one of the best anime series ever made. So hope you'll be trying to give it a chance. Hope you'll be loving it as much or even more than I love it currently, and looking forward to the third season because there is material in the manga. So see you all. I love you. Don't forget to like and subscribe and post a comment to on this video. Just tell me who the best character is in this series if you've watched it. Thank you. Bye bye. Love you guys. You are amazing.